Hey everyone and welcome back. So last time we have these notes, we created this object and we have some text that displays when we play the game. So yeah, that's all great, but what we're gonna do this time is we're gonna add questions, and with these questions we'll have an answer of either an answer of yes or an answer of no. So it's good to plan this out here again. So yeah, we're gonna have a question and then you can answer the question yes or no. That's what we're gonna do today. So how are we gonna go about doing this? Well, so we have our different things that we're saying here. So it says welcome to the game right here. And that's great and all, but what we need to be doing is we need to add some more things for it to say. So after 0 we want it to say 1, welcome to the game, and then we'll ask a question. Are you a human? And obviously you'll be able to answer either yes or no to this question. So, what do we need to do? Well, if you look here in the draw event, it's drawing 0 every single time. And that's a problem, because we need to be drawing something other than 0 every single time. We're going to need to be drawing 1 eventually, then we'll need to maybe even draw 2 and 3. So what we can do is we can create something to store it in. And we'll just store it in something called value. So right now value is 0. Okay, now we can switch this out to value, and what value does is is storing the 0, and eventually it's going to change to a 1. So what we can do is we can add a key pressed event. So when we press down on, if I can find it, enter. So when you press enter, we want it to go to the next line of text. So all we need to do this is do value plus equals 1. So this means that the value will be increased by 1. And there's actually an easier way to do this. We can just type value plus plus. So now let's try playing. So it says welcome to the game again, and I press enter. Are you a human? So good. If we press enter again, it just says undefined, so we can only go up to 2. Or we can only go up to the second one right now. So, we have the value, and we have a question here. What do we want to happen when we have a question, though? Well, we're going to want the dialogue to branch off to different things. So, for example, after this, maybe it'll say something like, so like if you answer yes, then it says good. But if you answer no, then it says something else. Then it says like, that's not good. But right now we have these both stored in 1, and we don't want that, obviously. So what we can do is we can store this in 2. And well, where do we want to store this one? We probably don't want to store it in 3, because we're going to have something after this. We're going to have a continuation of this storyline, because it's branching off, and there's going to be tons of different storylines that we can be following. And we can just say something for now, like, the castle is being attacked, because this is some sort of story game. And then along this storyline, I can say, we are sending you to the dungeon if you're not a human. Of course, we can't have these in 1 and 1. We need to change it. So for now, what we're going to do is have this be 41 and 42. We're going to skip a bunch of numbers so that we can have all the storylines that go off of yes, and then all the storylines that go off of no are completely separate and are 40 numbers away, so that we have enough room for all of these. Is the entire game going to be less than 40? Maybe. So, but we can worry about that later. If it gets longer than 40, then we can just change this to like 80 or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But for now, to keep it simple, we'll just have it be 40. So, right now, if we press play, it will just say, welcome to the game, are you a human? And then you'll press enter to go on to the next one. Well, that's not really much of a choice. You're just going on to the next one again. So what we can do is we're going to want to store if something is a question or not. And we'll store this in something called a Boolean. Booleans are different than just storing a normal number inside of a variable. Booleans are either true or false. That's all they can store. And this is a Boolean. And right now it's false. So right now it's saying the question is false. And we only want to be able to press enter if it's false. So what we're going to do is we're going to use an if statement. If question equals false. You put two equals signs when you're using an if statement, because if you use one, then it's just saying question equals false. And we want to test. We're just accessing the value to see if it's false, not setting it to false. Like we are here. We're setting the value to one more than it is right now. So it'll only enter if we press false. So, welcome to the game. Are you a human? And it didn't work. Okay, well, that's because question is always staying false. When I pressed enter, I wanted it to stop. But it's not testing. It's not question's always staying false, even if this is a question. So what do all questions have in common? That's what we need to think about, because we want to set this question to true, well, when there's a question. And what do questions have? Well, they have a question mark. So what if we just find out if the current string that we're using has a question mark at the end of it? I mean, that kind of sets up one issue for us, though, because what if we have some sort of question that doesn't have a question mark at the end, or we have a question and then we have another line after that? Then we can't do that. So, I mean, for now at least, that should be fine. Maybe someday we'll want to change it. But, so, anyways, we can add something a little bit complicated to test. So, before we start though, like, figuring out if it's a question or not, we want to move this out of here, because that's a really long line of code. And then we'll instead store it up here. And then we can just put the text here, because we're going to be using this value multiple times, and instead of writing it out multiple times, storing it in a variable is much better. But if we're using it in here, we need to do this, because it's not a string when it's being stored here. It's just being stored in a variable, so we need to convert it to a string when we're actually drawing it here. Okay, so let's add some comments. Storing the current string in text. Drawing the text variable converted to a string. It's always nice to have good comments, because, well, if you were to come back to this code in 5 months and then edit it, you wouldn't have any idea what's going on. So commenting your code and knowing what's going on is really useful. Okay, so we have the text, and what can we really do? Well, we'll want to use an if statement again, although this is going to be a little bit complicated what we're doing. So we'll kind of go through it. What we're going to be using is we're going to be using string character at text, and for the index, we're going to be using string underscore length text equals Okay. And then else. So this is all new stuff, but I'll go through it in just a second. And actually, I should probably do this. Okay. And here we're gonna want question equals true. So, what is all this doing? So remember, this, the text is being stored in this value. The string is being stored here. So what we're doing is we're doing if string character at, and we have to pick the string, as you can see right here, and the index. Now, what's the index? The index is the specific spot that we're looking at, because it says string character at, and a character is one letter or one separate part of the string. It can be a space, it can be any single one of these. So obviously we're using the string of text, and we're doing string underscore length of the text, and we're putting text inside here. So what does string length do? Well, let's search it. If you ever have any questions, the first place you should go is to the help tab right here. So string length. The function returns the number of characters comprising a given string. Okay, so what it's doing is it's finding the value, or it's finding the total length of the string. And remember how I said that the question mark has to be at the end? Well, the total length of the string, that's what we want to find. We want to find, because the total the total string length is the same as the last value. So let's look at this. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So there's a question mark at the 16th spot. What's going to happen is the string length is going to find that this is 16. So it'll do the string character at 16. And at 16 it's a question mark. And then it'll see that it's equal to a question mark. And then it'll say the question is true. But for any of the other ones, it's just an exclamation point or just something else. So then it'll just return false. So now we know if the question is true or false. And if the question equals false, then we'll increase the value. So when we play, when I press enter, it's not going to move on, because I'm stuck here, because this is a question, and nothing happens if we're at a question. So what we can do next is we can have some other, we're going to want to add some other events. So you can either input yes or no. So let's just use a Y key for yes, and an N key for no. Now the code for this is pretty simple. If question equals true, so when there is a question, value plus, we want to increase the value by 1. And then we can just copy this code, Control C and Control V, and then we can make this increase by 40. Because if you remember, when it's yes, we want it to increase by 40. Or actually, yeah. So I want to switch this around. Are you a human? No. And are you a human? Yes, because when we have yes, I want it to go more towards this. Okay, yeah, we need to switch this out. Okay. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but I have reasons to think that it's better to have the yes be down there. We are sending you to the dungeon. Okay. So now we can go back into this view. And actually, these are in this view now. So we have all of our inputs that we could possibly want, and we change that up. So now if we press play and we press enter, are you human? I'll press Y. Good. And then now if I press Y, nothing happens, but if I press enter, stuff happens. The Casco's being attacked. Okay. And then I just get an error because we ran out, but for now that's fine. Okay. So I'll exit out of these. I'll save the game. And there's one other thing we're going to want to do. So we have our game. We have the enter, no, and yes, but here's the problem. The player doesn't know what to press. Now we could just tell them on some sort of website or just do something, but a better way to do that would be to go into the draw event and then on a string tell them press this for yes, press this for no, or just press enter. So we're going to want to add this code here. What we're going to want to do is actually we're going to want this underneath the draw text. So we want this to be a different color. So I'll have this be red. Just for now. So the way that the color works is that you set it, and it's always going to draw that color on until you set it to a different color. So once we set it to red, it'll, well, start drawing red. And so what happens? What do we have going on here? So if question is false, you can press enter. And what happens if the question is true? Well, you can press Y or N. So we're just going to want to put code for this. If question equals false, then what we'll do is we'll copy this and we'll just draw, let's just draw press enter. Now we don't want to draw this in the same exact spot because it'll just be overlapping itself. So we're going to want to draw this, well, underneath. And so we can just increase the Y value by 200. Now if you're thinking back to some sort of math class, you'll know that the Y goes down as you go downwards, but I put plus 200 here. Well, in computer science and programming, usually it's the opposite, because the computer starts in the top left corner for drawing pixels. So therefore, the Y value is always the opposite. The X is the same. If I put plus 5, it'll move to the right 5. If I put minus 5, it'll move to the left 5. But when I put plus 200, it'll move down 200. The Y value will. And we're talking in pixels here. So what you can do if you want is you can do this. Now, you can use this sort of, like these characters, to just have like an enclosed sort of comment in the middle of your code. So I can just put this here, so I can remember that this 200 is talking about, well, 200 pixels. So we have this, press enter. Now we also want to add something else. We want to add the same thing here, except we want to have press Y for yes, press N for no. So pretty simple stuff. And we can have these in the same spot because only one or the other is ever going to draw. And we use an else statement, remember, because if the question equals false, then we do this, and then else, so if the question equals true. We just don't have to write that all out. So I'll press save, and I'll press play to make sure everything is working right. So see, you can just press enter. Are you a human? Okay, now it gives me the choice to press Y for yes, press N for no. I'll try pressing enter, nothing happens. And let's go no. That's not good. You're sending you to the dungeon. Okay, So that all works for now. That's all we have for today. Just remember to go to GameJolt if you want to see the code, and I hope you're learning a lot. Add some comments if you have any questions or concerns, and, well, thank you for watching.